and we are asylum seekers from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We actually inherited our asylum status from our dad, who was the principal applicant. So we don't have a story. That's what we've been told by Home Affairs. So we've lived here since we were 2 and 3, and this is the only home we've known, but we have still been constant victims of Afrophobia, and especially institutionalized Afrophobia.
All right, so growing up in South Africa, being, I don't want to use the word foreign because foreign can mean anything, being African immigrants has been very challenging since the beginning, for as long as we can remember. And so last year, we started our foundation where we were doing small volunteering jobs and getting youths together to do stuff. And then last year, in May, there was a wave of xenophobic attacks in South Africa that was caused by, I think it started with some service delivery protest. And then the attacks came all the way to Rosettenville, where we were staying at the time. Rosettenville is a place that we have stayed since the year 2000. So 17 years later, on our doorstep, we had these waves of attacks, and houses were being burnt down, and children were being pulled out of school, and we were basically living in fear. And it was very uncomfortable, you know, for a place that you would call your home, and all of a sudden, your neighbors want to burn your house down. And I mean, there was a whole issue with the drug dealers, okay, but I don't see how children at school should be affected by the fact that foreigners are being accused of selling drugs. So we decided that let's do something different to get our point across, because I mean, the only time African immigrants would have a voice during these kind of things is when the news team comes by and gives them a mic and they'll say something in some broken English and it becomes a meme and everyone laughs about it and no one takes it seriously. So we decided to come up with a unique way to get our point across and get it on a bigger platform. And that's when we decided to, we actually went to one of the remains of one of the houses that was burnt down. And that's where we shot our video. And yeah, let's watch it and then I'll explain after.
I am more than just Igwe.
Why can't that be more than just a car guard?
A pimp,
A drug lord?
a child thief, the face of cheap labor.
I am more than just a foreigner.
Why do you insist on killing my soul with your words?
Go back to your country. Go back to your country.
You don't belong here.
Why am I not good enough for you?
Go back to your country. You don't belong here.
Why did you look at me in the eyes, with skin as black as mine, and deny me as your brother?
What about me? Look at me. Think of all the dreams that we have in common. I am Zambian. I am your colleague.
I am Congolese.
I am Malawian. And I am human.
I am South African, your sister of the soil. I am Zimbabwean, and I am your neighbor.
I am your friend.
So most of, everyone in that video are friends of ours who grew up facing plus or minus the same challenges that we did.
So we were very frustrated at the lack of representation of youth, migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees. We were constantly minimized to criminals, or there's just so many stereotypes, and we had to take our power back. We're very uncomfortable with being called voiceless, or in our work being called the voice of the voiceless. we want people to stand up and speak for themselves. For us, we feel like we are the exception and not the norm. Most asylum seekers don't want to speak out in public. They don't even want people to know that they're asylum seekers because there's so much shame to it. So with Singabantu, we are human. We really wanted to appeal to the human element. That's why there's so many close shots, so that when you look at those people, you can see they have eyes like me, they have a nose like me. And just to remind people that before we are anything else, we are human. And when I'm sitting in that queue for hours on end in the burning sun with no water, I'm not human to you, because if you felt that I was human, you'd never do that to me. So it's really about sharing our stories and, you know, encouraging other people to share their stories, because so many people don't even know that their rights are being violated, and they think that they deserve to be treated that way, and that's not okay at all.
Alright. So Singabantu went on to win the United Nations Alliance of Civilization Award in the I Am Migrant category. It has been shown in over 34 countries, and those are in 4 continents. And it was really a great way for us to use the platform that we received. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of support from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, or from the South African government, because, you know, obviously it was a touchy subject, because we were invited to New York to go, and we did approach them to, you know, to help us to get there, and we didn't get any responses from that, which goes just to prove what we had been speaking about, and how institutionalized xenophobia is, to a point where we raise awareness about it and they can't support us, because when we were nominated for the award, we weren't representing Congo, we were representing South Africa. And this is something that's gone to the United Nations to represent South Africa, and no one wanted to touch it. So for me, it was very hurtful, but it still went to prove our point. So after Singabantu, we realized that we can continue to use our voice, and to use this platform that we have to make the opportunity that we have to make videos. And so our next video that we made this year, this was last year, so this year we made a video called Kumi, and Kumi means 10 in various African languages. It's Swahili, Congo. Anyone else know in which language Kumi means 10? So basically why it's called 10 is because 2018 is the 10-year anniversary of the first large wave of xenophobic attacks that hit South Africa, where over 200,000 people were displaced and 64 people lost their lives. So what we're trying to get in Kumi was to speak to the youth about how they feel. So in most of the kids in this video are, in 2008, they were either not born or they were too small to remember what happened. But they still share the same sentiments as the people who were actively victimizing and persecuting people during that time. So basically what we wanted to do with Kumi is to show how the education that children are getting at home is accelerating the institutionalized xenophobia and the Afrophobia that is continuing on a daily basis.
So we decided to speak to children because we believe that they would be honest and they would have no reason to be politically correct or care what other people would say. So I think we can watch Kumi and then have a discussion afterwards, because it is quite spicy.
that is something that comes from black people. We hate someone from another country.
Yes, I think that was foreigners in South Africa, but I can't really follow the brand. They took job for us because
They are making them to feel like they are owning South Africa. That's the biggest problem.
one good thing about foreigners being in South Africa, you know that types of foreigners are like,
And bring us some goods that we don't have here in South Africa. That help us to have some jobs.
they tell us ways of how to care for one another, which in South Africa you can find. The other kids treat they treat tease us and call us call us bad names, names that we really like. Like
Baluna, I guess.
as a prefect, yeah, I report. I avoid them because I know that here we are one. There's no need for me to stress. My classmate is from Mexico. Congolese, Zimbabwe, Angola, and other which are Saudi, Malawi, and the way things will change in South Africa when we all foreigners back and leave. People who are not foreigners, they will find jobs. And politics just those who are thinking that like us. We all came here to build our future. That if we go back, yeah, we feel like that.
Amafolina nathi awukuyehluka siyafana so we're same people, same age, same creatures from origin.
And I, as a person, I do not discriminate. There's always that saying,